Good evening and welcome once again to Views and Expectations. I'm your host, Dr. Bayne, coming to you live from the studios of RHR TV1 here in South Florida. This evening we are going to be addressing some issues pertaining to immigration, and it's a program that I've really been looking forward to doing, and I am so glad that this evening I have in the studio with me attorney Caroly Pedersen. It's an immigration attorney with 23 years of experience, someone who knows what she's talking about, deals with specializing, if I could say so, a lot of experience in federal immigration law. She's a writer and a lecturer. She writes columns in newspapers and magazines, and so this is information that is coming to you tonight that has been shared, I am sure, with many thousands of people, and so you're now added to the list of those that will be informed, because you know that the show Views and Expectations is a program that is designed to inform you, to educate you in different areas of your life, give you information that would make your life easier and allow you to make informed decisions that would change the outcomes of the decisions that you make. Caroly Pedersen is a member of the American Immigration Law Association of Florida, the Florida Bar Association, and the National Bar Association as well. And so she's licensed to practice in the United States District Court. I've got that right. Okay. In the Southern District of Florida, a NOVA alumni. Yes. Actually, and welcome to the studio this evening.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you had the time to do this. I know that
thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. And I am just going to get all that I can out of you.
Wonderful. Go for it. Yes, that's what I like.
Yes. Okay. Now, there are many things that we can talk about in immigration, but this evening, because really the topics are so vast,
yes.
But this evening we are going to try as much as we can to center our discussion on the I-94 status situations and the DREAM Act, and we know that there are different there are people who are obviously in favor of it, there are people who celebrate it, and there are others who are opposed to it for various reasons. I don't know how much of the politics we're going to get into tonight, not the politics of it, but clearly legislation and the implementation of laws, eventually has to do with how people feel. In other words, the politics or your view, because we all have a politic by which we live, or a policy by which we live, and so politics in terms of government and governance of a country really is just that on a larger scale, but we all have a politic. We have our belief systems, the things that we agree with and that we don't agree with. So I don't know how much of that we're going to get into tonight, but we want to share with you the information that will be useful to you, and knowing, depending on what your situation is. I want you to get on your telephone and call someone and let them know that this program is on the air, that you're listening to Views and Expectations. Tell them to just tune into rhrtv1.com, and remember that you can call with your questions. The number to call is 954-251-7883. Again, the number is 954-251-7883. Okay, I know that there's so much, I don't even quite know exactly where to begin, but I believe that it's important that maybe not everyone watching understands what the DREAM Act is. So just tell us a little bit what the DREAM Act is, how is that defined, and what does that acronym represent?
It's so important to understand the DREAM Act. First, let me just give you a little bit of background about what prompted the DREAM Act. One of the biggest issues in immigration is parents who come to the United States looking for a better life. They inevitably bring their children, their young children. The children go to school, they participate in the community, they make exemplary grades, they do all the right things that they're supposed to do, they're a part of our community. But unfortunately, the children, because of their immigration status, because their I-94s are expired, they're not able to get driver's licenses, they're not able to get student loans, and in many states like Florida, they're not even allowed to attend college. So it's a tragedy. It's, no matter what your politics are, it's very difficult to be able to say that innocent children who had no decision-making at all in staying here in the United States illegally are unable to get the rights and the benefit that the American dream is supposed to provide. And these children are the future. Like it or not, even those people that don't agree about immigration, you've got to agree that these children have been educated by our system, we have invested in them, and they're part of our future. So with that said, then we have now a generation of children who, since the year 2001, many of them have not been allowed to attend college because of very restrictive immigration laws. And so the DREAM Act is a way of trying to repair this tragedy. It's not giving benefits to anyone that doesn't deserve it, because these children are innocent. They had nothing to do with their immigration status. So basically what it does is it allows children who, now there are different versions, so I will just say that the basic version, the last one that was proposed, would allow children who came to the United States before age 16. It is an arbitrary age, and I really couldn't explain that to you why.
Why 16?
That makes a difference, because I cannot see a 17-year-old child telling parents, no, I'm not going with you.
Maybe they're linking it somehow to the age at which a child would probably be graduating from high school.
Well,
I'm just wondering.
That may be it.
Might be the logic.
But of course, you know, children don't really have a say as to whether they follow their family or not. But that is the basic age right now, and we're hoping that eventually, when Congress actually gets serious about passing it, that with input from the community, they will raise the age to 18, so that all children...
The age of adulthood, really?
Yes,
really,
yes.
Really.
So essentially then, when the law does eventually pass, the children will be able to get immediate status, which will allow them to be legal in the United States and be able to get driver's licenses, to go to college. They will be restricted from getting student loans, but they should be able to get scholarships. Many immigrant children now have been given scholarships that they can't even use.
You know, it's as you said, that it's really interesting, because I have a spiritual son that did legal studies at Nova, and he's part of the National Honor Society. He was an international student here with an I-20, and these things just kept coming. He was able to be part of the National Honor Society, but none of the scholarships that he was eligible for. In other words, he had exactly. You know, his scholarship. You know, his ability to perform suggested that he should have these, and they just kept coming. But when I would go and inquire, he could not benefit from them because of his immigration status. He was simply an international student. He wasn't out of status. He just couldn't.
Exactly.
But
couldn't. Think of it. Imagine a child who, let's just say, 12 years old, comes here. They have become American. They feel
Absolutely.
American. They don't even know they're not Americans, many of them, until the time comes when they want to get their driver's license, and the parents have to sit down. First they come to see me and cry and say, we don't want to do this, is there any other option? But then eventually they have to explain to the child the situation, and they have to really, you know, make very concrete plans about how they're going to deal with the child's education after high school. So you have a child that is on the dean's list, on the honor roll, they have awards, and they could get into the best schools, but unfortunately they're not allowed to.
So they don't have the right status.
Yes. I could go on forever about the DREAM Act.
We're going to go to a quick station break, but when I come back, I want to address the issue of what about parents who came here and ended up out of status, ones who came, entered illegally, number one, to make the distinction between those who entered illegally, those who entered with an I-94 and ended up out of status. And what about children who are born to parents who are born in the United States? So we're up against the station break. This is Views and Expectations, and we will be right back.
Grace United Learning Center, a ministry of Grace United Community Church. The Learning Center is a privately owned organization providing exceptional child care and educational services to infants and preschool-age children. The center also provides after-school care for children up to age 10. The Learning Center utilizes a combination of structured curriculum instruction, teacher-directed activities, and child-initiated play to promote the physical, social, emotional, and intellectual development of each child. Come experience an environment of exploration, discovery, and exciting challenges. Grace United Learning Center, achieving excellence together. We are located at 911 Northwest 183rd Street, Miami Gardens, Florida. Our hours of operation, 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Fridays. We can be contacted at 305-651-1947 or on the web at www.graceunitedlearning.com. Grace United Learning Center, a ministry of Grace United Community Church. The Learning Center is a privately owned organization providing exceptional...
Okay, we are back, and we are discussing the DREAM Act, trying to get some information to you and to situate you with regards to this act. The DREAM Act is actually, the acronym is for the Development, Relief, and Education of Alien Minors, DREAM, Development and Relief for Education of Alien Minors. And so, of course, we're talking about people who are here, who are not American born, came to the United States and find themselves in a situation where children are now grown, ready to go to high school, ready to begin to drive, ready to apply to college, and find themselves in situations where their parents have to confess to them the circumstances under which they entered, either the parents entered the United States or both they and the parents entered the United States. And Caroly, I was just wondering, is there a distinction between parents who came legally, like entered on an I-94, and those who are in the country but entered illegally in the first place? Does the DREAM Act apply?
That's a very good question. For the DREAM Act, it will not apply. It will not matter how the children's parents entered or how the children entered, as long as they are legally, as long as they are presently inside the United States at the time that the law passes, and as long as they can prove that they were in the United States before they turned age whatever
that age
it'll be
is.
18, although the current version is 16.
All right, and you know, you've referred to the current version, and I know there is a basic version, but I know that in California, like some states have implemented, instituted, California, Maryland, and clearly Florida has it.
Yeah, and New York is going to, they are
in the process.
Yes, they are very soon going to do that. Now, the important thing is that immigration is federal. So the DREAM Act that's pending in Congress right now, that was originally introduced in 2009, reintroduced in 2010, 2011, in January, of course, 2011, and has failed to been brought to the floor as of now. You know, under all of these bills, you know, it's always brought up, but it never goes anywhere. That's the problem.
Because the Congress usually looks at the bill in August,
well,
or more than once.
Well, it depends. What happens is it's introduced into Congress, and then the the senators or the congressmen begin getting co-sponsors, and once they believe that they have enough strength behind the bill to put it to a vote, then they will. If they don't, they won't. You'll never hear about it. It's just going to sit in a committee until they do their backdoor finagling and try to get it there. Yes, and nothing is happening. Yeah. Nothing is happening anytime soon. So this is the Federal DREAM Act provisions. There's one in the House and there's one in the Senate. Now, there are, the DREAM Act bill would give federal recognition of legal status to children. So that takes precedent over any state law. So once this passes, children will be able to get all the benefits under federal law, Social Security number, go to college, join the military, get scholarships, all of those things, and then eventually get citizenship. So that is the Congress DREAM Act bills that are pending. Now, you mentioned the states. So, like a state like California, they've passed a state DREAM Act, which essentially was to remedy the problem with the children who couldn't go to school.
Right.
So, the children that while all their friends were picking which college they were going to go to, these poor children were looking on the internet to see what kind of an internet course they could take.
Right.
And California and these other states realize that they are losing a generation of beautiful children by doing this. So what they've done in these states is they have passed their own DREAM Act, which allows the children to be able to go to state colleges with in-state tuition. So they actually pay the same tuition that regular Americans would. They don't even have to pay international student fees.
Okay, so yeah, that's right, because in California the bill is in two parts. I think there's the AB 130, which actually gives them access. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where a lot of people have problems with it, access to about $88 million, I believe, of monies that would help them to be able to go to. And then the AB 131, which then gives them the right to apply for. So they, I guess it was interesting that they did it that way, so that if one thing was not agreed to, that it was exactly the politics of.
But the important thing is that the children have that kind of status. Now, they don't have federal legal immigration status. This is giving them the status, though, of being able to have opportunities that they should have for education and for other benefits.
Right, and so nothing can actually undo the education that someone has. Once you've gotten your education, you have it. That's it. The certificate is valid and conferred upon someone by a college or a university. Mm-hmm. It is valid.
That's right.
It is valid, and so that's the good thing about it. While all of this is being worked out at the federal level, but there are some people that say that. That refer to the DREAM Act as what like a sleeper amnesty, and this is a way because the federal one I think addresses, if I'm correct, this path to citizenship is being discussed, and some people are seeing that as a way of granting amnesty.
Well, of course, the states granting their amnesties are for educational purposes and maybe driver license purposes. I know that New York is going to allow children to drive once they pass it. I'm not sure if California did. Maybe you'll know. But essentially, the children that are eligible under these state-passed laws, if they go to another state, they don't have any benefits. So it's only good for that particular state, and it's only good for children that graduate from high schools in that state. So, for instance, the poor children in Florida who can't go to Florida schools because of our restrictive laws here.
Couldn't leave and go to California.
They can't leave and go to California.
So
that's right. So what I do, I counsel clients many times who have children that are in elementary and other grades, that these are the states that you can move to. Your children can then finish their schooling, and then they'll be able to go to college in those other states.
Okay. Now, I would say that if I were a citizen of California, then that's going to become a burden, because we have all these people that coming into California, there's a certain budget that is available, calculated based on the numbers that are there right now, and then the states are going to be flooded with.
Well, that's why they
people.
did put the requirement that children have to attend at least 2 years worth of high school. So in reality,
Okay.
people have not migrated to those states.
Okay, so
they really haven't. That's
don't
not
expect
been
this
an
big
issue.
don't expect this big swell
Exactly.
of people moving. We have a call, and we'll just take that right now. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, hello, hi.
Yeah. Just speak up a little bit, please. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, just speak up a bit, please.
Yeah, good night. I have a question I want to ask. I need some information.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, if they pass any law, if you come over here in somebody else's name and try and be straight.
Okay. The question that you're asking is, if someone comes to the United States and they're using somebody else's identity, will they be able to legalize their status? And this is
Yes.
something that we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes. It's about entering legally and illegally and what are the differences. So I will be explaining that.
All right. so
Something
you-
similar to that.
Okay, so keep listening because the topic will be addressed. Okay, and if you know anyone else that needs the information, just share the opportunity with them. We want to give them a chance to get on. So in a few minutes, we are going to be addressing the topic that the question that you just raised. Okay, so thank you very much for calling.
Okay, so
So these are some of the concerns, legally or illegally entering. And so it's probably going to push us there. Is there anything else you want to say on the DREAM Act in and of itself? I know that, as I say, it's been, 10 years now. That's from 2001. It's been 10 years that this thing has been going back and forth. So it's gone through more than one administration, and it's still on the floor, and nothing is resolved as yet.
well, what I'd like to say about that is that the DREAM Act, I firmly believe, and immigration experts believe, that the DREAM Act will eventually pass. It does have bipartisan support. The problem right now is that there's so much politics going on. The Republicans are using a lot of things they are not going to move on immigration subjects likely until the election next year. So I would say that moving past the election, no matter who wins the White House, who wins the Congress, everyone knows that the DREAM Act is something that needs to be passed, and it eventually will be passed. So I would say to please contact your senators, your congressman's office. If you need contact information, you can always contact my office. We will give you the website that you can go to and just put in your zip code, and you can very easily contact them and let them know that you support the DREAM Act and that you are going to be looking forward to their votes and for them bringing it up in the House and the Senate.
All right. Now, we are going to go to a station break. And when we come back, we're going to put in perspective. There is a caller. Let me just take that call before we go to break. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Okay, hello, good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Please. Okay, what are you able to to get a driver's license when the person, I've been married to my husband, but he's not here to further the paperwork. But I was approved for a visa, but I'm unable to go any further because he's not here to go with me. Could I use that approval letter and get a driver's license?
Okay, honey. Well, what you're asking is it's a personal immigration question, which is going to be hard for me to answer without seeing your
Okay.
documents. But I'll just say, let me just say generally, okay? Generally.
All right, I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna hang up, and you can.
All right, dear. I hope that I can answer it as best I can.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. All right. With driver's licenses, Florida, I believe it was in 2010, January. I believe it was 2010. They changed the driving license requirement laws, which no longer allowed issuance of driver's licenses to immigrants who only had a receipt notice for something called an I-485, which is an adjustment of residency application. Prior to that, you would just bring that with your passport and you'd be issued a driver's license. When the restriction came, they stopped issuing driver's licenses only in very certain circumstances will they issue it. Currently, right now, the official driver's license policy is that in order to obtain a driver's license through adjustment of status, which is the I-485, you need your I-485 receipt, the I-130 receipt, and you need your work authorization card with the Social Security. So if you have all of those three things, you should be able to get the driver's license issued. Without the Social Security, though, they will not issue the driver's license anymore. Now, with that said, I will say that it never hurts to try, because just when I tell people and I give them the official policy, some people will call me and say, Caroly, I was able to get it at this location, so try. It never hurts to try.
So sometimes the system is not fully integrated.
Yes.
And some people might be still operating on the old policies.
Yes, and you know, there's a higher power, so sometimes people get
He
through.
shifts things around.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to go to the station break, and when we come back, we are going to be addressing many issues of the status. Caller, we know that you're on the line, so if you can just hold on, we'll do a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
In the cool hills of Runaway Bay, Jamaica, you'll find the peaceful escape known as Villa Sonate. This privately owned single-story resort is a rejuvenating place, well known to locals of the area. Only minutes away from popular destinations like Dolphin Cove and Dunn's River Falls, you can take in all the excitement Jamaica has to offer and retreat back to peace and tranquility at Villa Sonate. You experience a true Jamaican breakfast with the breakfast plan and enjoy lunch and dinner at the Villa's Lantana restaurant. Each comfortable room is air-conditioned, has satellite TV and ceiling fans, and feels casually elegant. A gentle cooling breeze flows throughout the halls and rooms, and you wake refreshed and ready to greet the Jamaican sun. Each room at Villa Sonate has a private patio and looks out at the hills of Runaway Bay or the garden of flowers below. In fact, each room takes the name of a flower. This blend of natural beauty and comfortable ease makes Villa Sonate one of the greatest escapes in Jamaica. The beautiful setting and accommodating grounds of Villa Sonate make it a very popular wedding and honeymoon destination. You will have all the privacy and hospitality you need. In addition to the restaurant, Villa Sonate has an outdoor sports bar. And it is adjacent to the Runaway Bay golf course. The honeymoon package includes honeymoon suite accommodations, Jamaican breakfast, a bottle of champagne, and room service for two. And all guests can take a dip in the refreshing swimming pool. At Villa Sonate, your true Jamaican escape awaits.
We're back, and of course we are on this topic topic of the DREAM Act and immigration status, and we know that I can imagine that there's a plethora of questions that you can ask. There's so many things that people need to know. And so at least tonight we hope that by us doing this program, that it stimulates you and encourages you to come out of the shell that you've put yourself in, come out of the woodworks, wherever it is that you're hiding, but at least to get information that is available to you. There are things, as much as we can read, and sometimes, we are relatively intelligent. I think I'm relatively intelligent, but there's a lot that I don't understand, or I would prefer not to have to decide for myself, and there are experts who are there to do it for us, and so we should take the opportunity to make appointments and to go see them, and so that you can avoid shysters and people who would take your money and ask you to pay for things that they cannot do for you. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead, you're on the air.
Hi, good night. I'm calling from California, and I have a question for you. I wanted to know if you have information on the waiver scholarship. There's a requirement.
The what, dear?
You're breaking up a bit, so just repeat that, please.
Do you have any information on the waiver scholarship and there's a requirement?
Can you just repeat the waiver? Say that again?
Yes. Do you have any information on the waiver to file for citizenship?
The waiver to file for citizenship, is that what you're saying?
Yes, for the fee. I was told that there's a website that they're offering a waiver to file for citizenship. Know anything about that?
No, dear. There's no kind of waiver for citizenship. Now, are you talking about getting a residency here, or you have your residency and you're talking about getting citizenship?
Yes, I have my residency. I'm talking about getting it.
Okay. The rules about spouses of U.S. citizens is that they can apply for early naturalization. So it's not a waiver, it's just early naturalization. But the requirement is that your U.S. citizen spouse must have been a U.S. citizen for 3 years. You must have been married to the U.S. citizen spouse for 3 years. And then you can apply for your citizenship in 2 years and 9 months. Whereas other immigrants have to wait 4 years and 9 months. So it's an expedited naturalization. Did that answer your question?
Oh, okay.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yes, yes.
Great, okay. All right, dear.
Okay, great. Good night. Bye-bye.
I'd like to follow up on what you were saying about education.
Absolutely.
About knowledge, because I can tell you that the most important thing for me is that immigrants become informed. You don't have to be experts in immigration, but you need to be informed. You need to have an understanding of the basic concepts of what it is that you believe that you're applying for, that you're qualifying for, so that you can empower yourself. And I know that's what you're all about, is empowering.
Absolutely,
Teaching
empowering.
people to empower.
That's right, empowering individuals, empowering the community. Let's just hear what this caller has to say. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go ahead, you're on the air. Don't listen to your computer at this time, just
Okay.
talk to the phone. Yes.
I'm not, I turn it off. I would like to know, is there anything on the desk for a change of age as to when a U.S.-born child can file for a non-status parent?
Okay. Right now, the law is that children must be age 21 in order to sponsor their parents. Now, if their parents are in the United States and their I-94 has expired, they're forgiven for that. There's no problem whatsoever. The parents could be here for 20 years with an expired I-94 card. And once the child turns 21, the application is filed in Florida. In 3 months, the parents have their green cards. If the parents entered the country without inspection, that's the legal term, without inspection. That means without an I-94 card. Even when the child turns age 21, unfortunately, under current law, the parents cannot obtain residency under the current time. Does that cover the area that you're?
Yeah, that answered my question. I already knew that the child had to be 21. I was wondering if there was anything to change that age.
No, honey. In fact, I don't even believe there's anything pending about that right now.
Okay, that was just a question.
Okay, well, that was a great question.
Seems to make you happy. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Maybe what we can do is to share a bit about the various out-of-status situations.
Yes, very important. Okay, so just like the caller was asking about...
In other words, how did they end up out of status?
Okay.
The different ways in which you can end up out of status, whether it was student, they came on the inspection,
Yes.
the I-94, they're on the TN visas, the different type of visas, and how they end up out of
Okay.
status.
So immigration law makes a distinction between foreign nationals who enter the country legally, and that means with inspection. That means you're going through a border, an immigration officer is stamping something, and you're coming in formally, and they give you a little card called an I-94 card. Now, that's a legal entry later on, depending on whether you change to another visa status or you just stay in the United States and let the I-94 expire. You can lose immigration status by not maintaining your legal visa status here. Now, the other situation is where immigrants come with somebody else's identity. That's one. So essentially, they have entered the country without inspection because they're coming in as someone else.
You're not who you say you are.
That's exactly it. So you have not been inspected properly. The other case is people will come like crewmen on a ship. They'll jump ship, so they won't be inspected. People will come through Mexico on a donkey or very risky ways. And so you have a very large population of immigrants in the United States who have come in various ways. Some of them have been inspected, some have not. And the funny thing is that immigration law does not make a distinction between the illegal status of any of those immigrants. So that if you came through the desert on a donkey and weren't inspected at all, or if you came through Fort Lauderdale Airport and you were inspected and you got an I-94 card but it's expired, for both of those situations, immigration recognizes you as having illegal status. Now, typically you'll hear in the news that they will say immigrants that are undocumented. That usually means someone that has not been inspected, that's entered the country without inspection. But as you were saying, how are the ways to drop out of status? There's so many ways, it's almost impossible to count them, but I'll say that the most typical ways, okay? One of the most typical ways is someone will come to visit family here. Let's say an adult daughter, and her mommy is in the United States, her mom's a U.S. citizen, she comes to visit mom, and mom says, hey, let me file an immigration petition for you so you can immigrate. And the daughter says, great. And so mom files it with immigration, and they think the filing of that will allow the daughter to stay. But
beyond the duration, beyond duration.
Part, exactly. Because when you enter the country with inspection, normally they'll give you 6 months. And you have to either change to another visa or extend your visa while you're in the United States in order to stay in legal status, or you have to leave before the expiration date. So in these cases, many people, so many people, believe that the filing of a family petition actually allows their family member to stay in the country. So that's one of the most typical ways that people let their I-94 expiring out of innocence. They don't know, and by the time they find out, they're out of status, and there's no way to repair that.
Right, and that's a typical
Very
situation
typical.
in which we say that ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance of the law
Yes.
is no excuse, unfortunately.
Yes, under immigration regulations. So another way is you have someone who comes on a student visa.
Right.
They maybe cannot afford to pay their tuition fees. They drop out of school through no fault of their own. Or they graduate school and they've made a life here. They try to get a job to be sponsored for some kind of a work visa, and they're not able to. In those cases, their I-94 expires, they drop out of status. Again, they're in illegal status, they're in a bad situation.
And it is my understanding that students, while they're here on an I-20, can actually work on campus,
Yes.
but cannot work. So anything outside of campus would be unauthorized employment.
Yes. There are regulations that allow students to work on campus after a year. And then once a student graduates with either an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or a master's, they can get 1 full year worth of free work called optional practical training, OPT. So essentially they get a work permit that allows them to work in the United States for a year.
So which means an ideal situation or typical situation would be somebody, like say, studying law, and then there's a firm with which they might do an internship that has
Exactly.
agreed. So it has to be something where the employment is guaranteed, not for them to now go on the labor market looking for work. Is there that
Well,
type of
generally
restriction?
what it is when someone is getting near to graduation, about 3 months before graduation, they apply for their work permit. And during that time, they find an employer who is in their field. So if you're in business administration, you can do just about anything.
Right.
If you're in physical therapy, you would find a physical therapy unit. And in those cases, they are employed for a year to learn their skills in the field that they've just had an education in.
Right, so they're able to do, that would be the equivalent of a practicum.
Exactly.
In a sense, a
That's why they
post-graduation
call it
practicum.
optional
Oh,
practical training.
there you go.
And the typical way that many immigrants become residents here is they do come on student visas, they do their OPT, optional practical training, and then their employer sponsors them for an H-1B work visa, and then later sponsors them for a green card. So it's a long process, but that's typically the way that it happens.
It happens.
For employment base.
Right. But we have to understand also that your H-1B can end up out of status. You can end up out
Yes.
of status as well.
That's
So
another way. Yes, another way is someone, just like you're saying, if someone is hired by a U.S. company, they do everything they're supposed to do, they get a legal H-1B work visa, but maybe they're fired, maybe they're laid off, maybe the employer takes advantage of them and doesn't pay them the wage they're supposed to, or abuses them. It happens many times. And in those situations, when the employee loses their job for any reason, they become in illegal status through no fault of their own. And so that's another typical way.
When someone ends up out of status, and we're probably going to touch on this when we come back, and then I want you to share on the waiting period for people who might be wanting to come here, from whichever countries they might be coming from, and wanting to come to the United States. What is the waiting period like? What is the what does the system look like look like right now? So we want to address that when we come back, and also to talk about what happens when someone ends up out of status. How does it affect their chances of applying later on for some change of status, whatever it is, a 485, one of those changes that you're changing your status while you're here or something. So we are going to address those topics when we come back. This is Views and Expectations with Caroly Pedersen in the studio tonight with some very, very interesting and useful information. We'll be back.
Wait, honey, you know cook?
Cook? Why me for cook?
Because I come from work, I'm hungry. I want something to eat. So then every day you know eat food when I buy over at Caribbean American restaurant.
Which restaurant that?
Spices Caribbean American restaurant, a brand new restaurant we're open at 3990 Southwest 48th Avenue.
You mean the one on Countyline Road and Southwest 40th Avenue across from a car wash?
Same one. Which way you think you get food from every day?
But only you trick me. Me think you could have cooked. Just never eat every single day because that's all that street food come from.
Spices Caribbean American Cuisine and Lounge. Opening hours Monday to Friday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays 9 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Featuring our special daily lunch specials 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday buffet breakfast 9 to 11:30 a.m. and Sunday brunch 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Located at 3990 Southwest 40th Avenue, Hollywood, Florida 33023. Number to call 954-961-9752, 954-348-419, 786-263-8870. ISIS Caribbean American Restaurant, the place where satisfaction is guaranteed.
Wait, honey, you know cook?
We're back with our final segment this evening on views and expectations, with addressing immigration law. And I just want Caroly at this point to right away just share your number, because I really want, I know that there are many people that won't get an opportunity to call in tonight and ask your questions, but here it is that there's someone that you can call, get a pencil and paper, write the phone number, write the website that she's going to be giving to you before we share some of the information with you. So it's
I do answer emails, maybe not the same day, but in a couple of days. I'll get back to you. The phone number is 954-382-5378. You can visit our website at www.immigratetoday.com. There's a newsletter you can click on to get up-to-date news information on immigration. And you can send me an email and ask me your immigration questions.
Okay, so just give us the phone number again and just repeat the website one more time.
Okay, it's 954-382-5378, and the website is www.immigratetoday.com.
Okay, immigratetoday.com, but do not expect for it to happen in a day.
You can't immigrate just today.
Whenever it happens, it will be that day. All right, and remember, you can send emails and she will answer your immigration questions. We want you to be informed. There is information that you can have. Please just reach out and grab it. Okay, now the categories of, let's just address first what happens. How does being out of status affect an individual's future hopes for applying and getting status for the United States? Okay. Is it different for countries that are part of NAFTA? In other words, if they're coming from Mexico, if they're coming from Canada?
There's no distinction whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
So, if an individual is in the United States and either they have an expired I-94 or they entered without inspection, they're still in illegal status. Now, there is a difference in what immigration benefits those two groups can get. If you entered the United States with inspection and your I-94 has expired, and you are the spouse, minor child, or parent of a U.S. citizen, then you can get a green card in the United States. Your relative can apply for you and you can still adjust your status. The difference is that when someone enters the country without inspection, you can be the spouse, the minor children, parent, your U.S. citizen relative can be in the U.S. military or the U.S. Congress, but you are not allowed to adjust status inside the United States to a green card. They make a very, very strict distinction. So essentially, you're barred from getting any immigration status in the United States if you entered without inspection. Now, real quick, I want to just say there was a law that expired in April 30th of 2001. It's called 245I. It's just a little regulation in immigration law. We never used to think much of it. It was a wonderful thing. It didn't matter whether you were in the United States illegally no matter what your circumstances were. As long as you had a qualifying relative, we applied for your green card, and we paid a $1,000 penalty, and you got your green card. You were totally forgiven for your sins of entering in any way you entered or being in illegal status by virtue of the $1,000 penalty. But in 2001, Congress failed to extend that law. And ever since, every year, it's proposed, and they have failed to renew it. So that's the status of it. Those people that had petitions filed for them before April 30th of 2001 are grandfathered into that old, yes. That's a very technical issue. I definitely want you to ask me questions about that if you have questions, because, you know, it's very technical whether you qualify or not. And the worst thing an immigrant can do is apply for immigration benefits when they're not eligible. If there's anything I can say today that I want people to listen to is please. When you're here out of legal status, immigration usually doesn't know anything about you. They're not looking for you. You're living your life, you're being happy, you have your regular family and friends. But when you apply for something with immigration, you put the immigration spotlight right on yourself. And in many cases, you can find yourself deported if you're not eligible for the immigration application that you filed. So sometimes the best advice I can give people is just don't do anything at all. And that's the hardest advice for them to take.
Right. because I guess, you know, everybody wants to be, I mean, people are sometimes coming out of difficult situations, and it's not that they want to continue in a situation that they know is not exactly within the confines of the law. But the point is that, as you said, do not allow yourself. Now here we are saying to you, what is the email that they can send you emails and ask questions? Here is someone that is saying to you that clearly this is how she lives. She's an immigration lawyer, but she's saying to you, send and ask questions. Do not allow, as I said, shysters, people who are tricksters and dishonest, to promise you things that they can apply for and cause to happen on your behalf, when in fact you do not qualify for it, because all they do is put the spotlight on you. They take you for thousands of dollars, and you end up throwing good money after bad, and nothing happens because you were never eligible in the first place. So if you don't take any other advice tonight, take that one and just use the opportunity to send an email and find out these little ticklish issues that you may be having before you make your decisions to go ahead and do something. What's the email? What's your email that they can send
it's
it to?
info@immigratoday.com.
Okay, so that's
info@immigratoday.com.
right, so that's simple enough. Okay, so for the last couple of minutes, we want to share with you, and we're going to post a chart so that you can see. And if it is that you have to call the station and get this information, or we'll tell you how you can possibly access it, or we will make it available on the RHR TV's website, so that you can have a document that you can download and that you have it for your use as to what is the waiting period.
This is very important. Dr. Bayne was making the point that in many cases when family members are immigrating, they will sell all their belongings, they'll, you know, anticipating that they'll be able to immigrate to the United States, only to find out they have years to wait. So before even starting the process, immigrants need to know, what is the process, how long am I looking at? So, is it up on the screen?
Yes, it should be up on your screen right now as we speak.
What I want to explain really quickly is that the categories that I have here are for countries except China, Mexico, and the Philippines, only because they have longer waiting periods. So I'm just basically going through. You can find out that by emailing me. I'll give you all of the rest of the dates. But for these, typically, I just want you to see that an adult child of a U.S. citizen, the waiting time is 7 to 8 years, okay? And if someone is inside the United States with an expired I-94 card, you are not able to get immigration benefits. So you either stay in your home country and wait, or come on a student visa and keep in legal status while you're waiting in that situation.
Are they able to visit family members during that time, of course?
Oh, absolutely.
The visitor's visa.
Because it takes so long to immigrate. So there should be no problem if you have a tourist visa coming backwards and forwards. But again, that's an adult child of a U.S. citizen. It's a 7 to 8 year wait, and that's if they're single, okay? If you have an adult child who's married, it goes all the way up to 10 to 11 years. So that's very important to know. So that sometimes the single children will, the mother will apply for a single child, and then she later marries and doesn't understand that now she's going into a category where the waiting time is longer. Okay? So then you've got spouses and minor children of residents. Right now it's about 2 to 3 year wait. And again, they cannot wait legally inside the United States, or they'll be prevented from getting a green card. The only time they can get a green card if their I-94 has expired is if their resident spouse becomes a U.S. citizen. And finally, the longest line there is brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens. That line is, you know, it's 11 to 12 years and could go longer. Again, if I-94s are expired, then not able to get immigration benefits under current law in the United States. So I just want people to be careful, be safe, understand how long the waiting is so you don't make any mistakes, and don't let your I-94 expire. If possibly you can avoid that.
Okay, and so we hope that this information, especially the chart that was just posted, would be useful to you, understanding that if you're making plans with family members that are in your home country, consider the age of the children, because if you're looking at a wait for 11 to 12 years, for example, it means that you have to be considering that their education, the things they're going to be doing, jobs, and in other words, they have to be establishing themselves or anticipating that this may not happen.
And the family could be broken up.
Exactly.
And that's a whole nother show about children, dependents in these categories. There's so many issues about that.
So we're going to have Caroly back.
Absolutely.
You know, in the new year for another segment, because there's so many repercussions of all that we have spoken about today. I want to thank you for being here today. It was my pleasure, and I know that the community is better off for it. This is Views and Expectations. I'm your host, Dr. Bayne. See you next week, same place, same time. God bless you.
Thank you.